What's up, guys? It's Minnesota Mike back again with another video. We were reporting live from sunny, not so sunny, St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And today we got a fun one. I'm going to be drafting an all-time Minnesota Twins roster. Let's get to it. So to start with rules, I'm going to be drafting a full 26-man roster. They've got to play at least one season in Minnesota, and I'm only going to be selecting them based off their primary position played as a Minnesota Twin and throughout their career. And to cap it off, I'm only going to be selecting players based off their time with the Minnesota Twins. I'm not going to be picking any Washington Senators players, except for guys that crossed over and played for the Twins. Unfortunately, Walter Johnson would easily be our ace, but I'm going to keep it relevant, and it's all going to be players that played in Minnesota. And first, we're going to start with our ace. This is a guy that was an ERA champ, Triple Crown champ, and Cy Young in Minnesota. Make way for our ace, Johan Santana. And this one was really hard. I really thought about this guy as an ace here. I couldn't turn down Johan. So next we got our number 2. This is a 2-time World Series champ, won with us in '87. We got Bert Blyleven. Circle me. So Bert, besides Walter Johnson, leads the Twins in pitcher WAR, Ks, probably a lot of different things too. Bert's a legend, and still is a legend in the booth to this day. Next, we got a Hall of Famer and a really big part of the Twins' 1965 AL pennant. We got Jim Cott, 16-time Gold Glove pitcher, baby. Let's go. And next, we got 2 guys that I could not hold from this roster. We've got World Series MVP in 1987, Frank Viola, and World Series MVP of 1991, Jack Morris. Now, Viola had a little bit longer of a career with Minnesota, was pivotal for that 87 and inaugural World Series victory in Minnesota, but I put Jack Morris on this list for Game 7 of the 1991 World Series alone. We got 10 innings of powerhouse. We got 10 innings of emotion. You see his face. I put him in this list for that performance alone. Let's ride with this 4 and 5 for our rotation. All right, so after the starters are done, this is how we're looking. We've got Johan on the bump, rotation in the corner. Let's get started with the pen. With closer, we're going to go for the all-time Twins leader in saves and Mr. Headache himself, Joe Nathan. Big part of my childhood right here. And next we got the setup man. What else can I say? We've got a World Series champ. Rick Aguilera leads the Twins in games closed. I understand he was a save kind of guy, but hey, he set up some games too, so we're going to put him there. And then Joan Duran. Need I say more? This is my former roommate. Look at the velocity on there. That's really all we need. Ideal setup man. And for middle relief, we've got Juan Rincon, LaTroy Hawkins, Eddie Guardado, and Jeff Reardon. We've got a whole new mix of personalities here. LaTroy, depends on the year. He had some ups and downs in Minnesota, but at his peak, I need him in here. Eddie Guardado, fan favorite, all the way to recent times when he was a bullpen coach. Jeff Reardon, I know he was a closer, but he got some Cy Young votes, all-star appearances with the Twins, and a World Series finish, as well as Juan Rincon, who ranks high in Twins WAR for relievers from his run from like 04 to 06. So I had to have these guys in there. And we will wrap it up with long relief. Glenn Perkins, I know he's probably mostly known to you guys as our closer from some of those 2010 years. But Glenn started his career as a starter, and I know he's got the juice to go a few innings. So let's slot him in here at long relief, see if we can extend Glenn's arm a little bit for this all-star team. And to wrap up pitching, again, we've got a rotation. Johan Santana, Bert Blyleven, Jim Cott, Frank Viola, and Jack Morris. In a bullpen, closer Joe Nathan. Setup, Joan Duran. Setup, Rick Aguilera. And a middle relief of Eddie Guardado, Jeff Reardon, LaTroy Hawkins, Juan Rincon. And a long reliever of Glenn Perkins from the left side. Now let's get into the field. And now we got catcher. You know I had to go with the first ballot Hall of Famer, Joe Mauer, to add to the list. Joe virtually has the top 5 best seasons for a Twins catcher of all time, and probably the best season of all time for a catcher, period. So that was a mindless decision for me. I would do it for an all-time roster. I'd put prime Joe Mauer as my catcher. I don't care. I'm biased. Gonna pick him regardless. And since we're doing a bench, I'm going to have a backup catcher regardless. Never know what's going to happen. Always got to keep at least 2 catchers on your roster, all 162. So backup's going to be Earl Batty. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He was a 5-time All-Star with the Twins, big part of the 1965 AL pennant team. Multiple-time Gold Glove. MVP votes in multiple seasons. Not much more else to say. I'd take this guy as my catcher any day. Earl's getting on this team. And next we got first base. Now this one was really hard because both these guys, I look them as having similar impacts in their career for Minnesota fans and for the team in general. Obviously, it's hard to argue. Ken Herbeck was here for 2 World Series championships. That's something Justin Morneau can't compare to. But also, you got to argue that Justin Morneau was 2006 MVP. I remember that season, and I remember him beating Josh Hamilton in that home run derby. I believe it was in Anaheim, where Josh Hamilton probably put like 24 out first round. And then I remember jumping and dancing probably like 11 years old for Justin Morneau after he beat him in the final round. So the stats, the accolades, they're here to show. Justin Morneau was a force in this league until obviously some injuries happened. And Kent was a leader, and John Gant was out, Braves fans. And at second base, we got to go with the legend Rod Carew. We've got an MVP, Hall of Famer, 18-time All-Star. You're kidding me. Like, what, half a percentage of the league plays 15 years in the show? Try being an All-Star 15 plus 3 more. This man wasn't an All-Star once in his career. 7-time batting title, dude. It doesn't get better than this guy when it comes to just understanding what it takes to be a hitter. I met him once when he was coming through Cedar Rapids to catch a single-A affiliate Cedar Rapids Colonels game. I probably was 13, 14, would have been close to 10 years ago. And I was with my baseball team, and we were all allowed to ask one question. One coach stood up and asked the right question to Rod and was like, as a hitter, Rod, as one of the greatest hitters ever, what's a little piece of advice you could give to all these kids? And Rod stopped. He looked at all of us, and he told us, don't go sitting there taking the first pitch every time, because it might be the only fastball you get. And I remember being pretty conflicted because of how big of a Joe Mauer fan I was. And I, at the time, took every single first pitch no matter what, because I saw Joe Mauer do it. Started thinking about hitting the first pitch because I realized I wasn't Joe Mauer once I started striking out because of it. But I'll never forget that moment. And also, as we go around these positions, I'm going to be looking at potential bench pieces as well. Haven't got to the outfield or the rest of the infield, so we're not going to finalize anything yet. But right now, I like the looks of Brian Dozier. Could have put Chuck Knobloch in there, but pretty much think you're getting a bunch of the same with Brian Dozier. I'll never forget that. I believe 2017, whatever year he hit those 40 bombs. It was a great time. Love Brian Dozier. He understood target field almost better than any player that has hit in that before. And now at third base, and some folks might say Harmon was a first baseman, but we're going to go with Harmon Killebrew at third. He won an MVP primarily playing third base, and what else can I even say about Harmon? He's the Twins home run king, the logo man himself. Many people don't know that. 573 bombs. I probably got to apologize to Gary Gaetti here, but good chance he ends up on our bench as a bat, so we'll see. Usually on the no free ads department, but Killebrew root beer, best root beer on the planet. Always copping that stuff at Lund's. When you do one free ad and then accidentally do 2. And I do think Gary Gaetti probably ends up on this team on the bench. Love his bat, had gap power. His OPS plus doesn't necessarily tell the full story. He was a little inconsistent year to year, but had some massive years in 86, 87, and I believe 89 as well. He was a full 4-time Gold Glove with Minnesota. I believe 1-time All-Star and was getting MVP votes, I believe, in 4 separate seasons as well. This 5th in Rookie of the Year votes kind of guy. All-time mean mug. Probably should breathe with his nose a little bit more, but I think we'd be doing Twins fans a little bit of an injustice if Gary Gaetti didn't have some sort of role on this team. And with shortstop, we're going to go with Zoilo Weiss. Don't let these career stats fool you. You see a low WAR, low batting average, low OPS. This man was a killer with the Twins. He was a huge part of that 1965 AL pennant, and that's why he was given AL MVP that year. He's a 2-time Gold Glove, 2-time All-Star. My man's from La Habana, Cuba, and he really played a part in integrating Cuban players into the league. We saw him, Tony Oliva playing on some teams together. But what else can I say about Zoilo? This is an MVP. He's our shortstop. And after we started talking shortstop, I started to think about how I want my roster to look. We got another potential bench bat / defensive replacement. Probably wouldn't be asking this guy to pinch hit too often late in the game, but Roy Smalley, tough not to include him or at least mention him. He played the most games in Twins history as a starting shortstop. 1-time All-Star, also was a piece in that 1987 World Series team. We'll see how this team shakes out towards the end, but I'm thinking you got to have 2 guys that can play shortstop on every roster. So we'll have to see. And I know there's probably going to be some dissenters here. Dan Gladden doesn't have that insane career, the insane counting stats, but he does have something that a lot of players don't have, and that's just a drive. He played this bruiser style of game, wasn't afraid to get dirty, wasn't afraid to put his body on the line to make a play. This guy was always electrifying to watch. He's even more electrifying to hear on the radio. I had the pleasure of sitting through his Twins Hall of Fame induction speech. That had to have went at least 15 minutes over time, but Dan Gladden's a treat to Minnesota Twins fans. Look at these iconic photos. I mean, him plowing catcher, Braves, dude. That I've seen that photo a million times, but it's still just as cool every time I see it. Dan Gladden, he's a left fielder for this team. He'll bat 9th. He's a great leadoff hitter, but he's going to get our lineup over and make these plays in left. And might have found a bench bat defensive replacement. We've got Bob Allison. Played out there for a while. Rookie of the Year in 59 with the Senators. Not really considering that for the Twins, but he was a 3-time All-Star with us as well. Obviously see he accrued some WAR over his time, and as well played a big piece in that 1965 pennant team. Just seeing those OPS plus numbers, obviously that's beaten Danny Gladden out. We'll just have to see how this team shakes out towards the end. And starting in center field for your all-time Minnesota Twins, it's Mr. Twin himself, Kirby Puckett. I tear up when I watch 91 World Series highlights. This man's an inspiration to many. I wasn't even alive, and he inspires me to do the best I can at whatever I do. This is a Hall of Famer, 6-time Gold Glove, 6-time Silver Slugger, 10-time All-Star, 2-time World Series, batting title, ALCS MVP, All-Star MVP. Probably should have a World Series MVP. This guy put the team on his back in 91 Game 6, and all of Minnesota has to thank for him because of that. And how could I do this list without the subject of yesterday's video, Torrey Hunter? This guy's definitely going to be a bench bat / defensive replacement. He ain't going to replace Kirby out there, but what's he going to do? He's going to do his thing. That's what. So Torrey's going to be on this roster. He's going to be our backup outfielder / center fielder. Him and Kirby defensively is one of the hardest things to do. Both these guys could do insane things out there in center field. So I'd be pretty much pissing it down my leg if I didn't include Torrey Hunter in this list. And finishing it out with right field, we've got the Cuban himself, Tony Oliva. This is a Hall of Famer, Rookie of the Year, 8-time All-Star, Gold Glove, 3-time batting title. This guy got in way too late to the Hall of Fame. This guy could have got in when voting was going on. Tony O is a legend in Minnesota, and it's a pleasure to see him in spring training at the ballpark as much as he's there. Thinking of possible bench bat, defensive replacement options. I see Michael Kadire. How could I not include him? He obviously had some massive years in Colorado after the Twins, but he still was an everyday guy with the Twins and could play anywhere. So I'd be a fool not to consider him for a couple of my bench spots, as I'm going to fill out the roster, see how it looks, and get back to you guys here in a second. So let's get it. All right, now it's time to make some cuts here to round out the bench. I've already put Earl Beatty as our backup catcher on the bench. We'll see him shortly. These are the picks here. It's some tough competition. We've got Brian Dozier, Gary Gaetti, Royce Smalley, Bob Allison, Torrey Hunter, and Michael Kadire. I've got my favorites. Obviously, Torrey, Dozier, and Mike Kadire I grew up with, but Royce Smalley, like I said, played the most games at shortstop for a Twin of all time. Gary Gaetti, big part of the '87 World Series. Bob Allison, one of our only Rookie of the Years. He won it in Washington, but still great outfielder. We'll see what we go with here. And finally, we are here at Playground Commons of the Backyard Sports League. This is the final all-time Twins roster. Look at our bench. We went with Earl Beatty, Brian Dozier, Torrey Hunter, and Michael Kadire. I like these picks because Earl's going to be our backup catcher. Dozier can play a little bit of shortstop, bounce around the infield, hit some bombs for us when we need him to. Torrey Hunter can play any position in the outfield. Is going to give you a Gold Glove answer there, as well as some MVP type numbers with the bat. You can give us 35 doubles, 35 homers. Didn't win an MVP, but could always put one together. And then finally, we're going to round this one out with Michael Kadire. Bob Allison, Gary Gaetti, Royce Smalley. Royce Smalley played a long time with the Twins. I thought of Brian Dozier as a better player. Kadire might not have been able to do the things Gaetti did at one point in his career, or Bob Allison did at one point in his career with the bat, but we needed some utility. Kadire could play first, third, a little bit of second, a little bit of the corner outfields. He's going to slot in a lot of different spots for us, and he's going to add the flexibility of this lineup. All right, and we'll wrap this video up with the lineup of your all-time Minnesota Twins roster. This one will be managed by the two-time World Series champ, put a ring on it, Tom Kelly, baby. And for the starting lineup for your all-time Minnesota Twins roster, leading off the game, we got Rod Carew, 18-time All-Star. How you want to lead the game off? 3,000 hits? Come on now. At the 2-hole, we've got Joe Mauer, Mr. Cretin-Durham Hall, Mr. First Ballot Hall of Fame, Mr. 2009 MVP. Say less, he's getting my boy Rod Carew over. Hitting third, we've got Mr. Twin himself, Kirby Puckett. Ask 1987, Ask 1991. This is our 3 spot. Let's go. Batting fourth, we got Harmon Killebrew, Mr. Logo Man, Mr. Killebrew Root Beer, Mr. 500 Club. Get him in. He's driving everybody in. Grand slams galore. Come on now. In the 5-hole, to go hit a 2-run shot once Harmon hits a grand slam to clear the bases, is Justin Morneau, your 2006 MVP. This is a mean man. He won't say it. He's from Canada, but he's a mean man. He'll be batting 5 with his roommate in the 2-hole, Joe Mauer. And then in the 6th slot, we got Tony Oliva. He's the Cuban in the Hall of Fame way too late. This guy's got batting titles. He's got everything you want out of a right fielder. Big player in our World Series berth in 1965. What else can I ask for out of Tony O? And in the 7th spot, we got the DH, first base galore, 2-time champ. Ron Gant was surely out. Kent Herbeck, come on now. Smart player, doesn't give a shit. He's going to grab your right fielder and pull him right off the bag in the World Series, and they're going to call him out because they trust Kent Herbeck. He's that kind of guy. Let's go now. 8-hole, we got Zoilo Versailles, 1965 MVP, Gold Glove, sure-handed guy, all-star. Who else do you want up the middle? I'd take a MVP. And in the 9th spot, we got the gritty, mean, bruised up, not afraid to put your catcher on his head, Dan Gladden. I don't care, man. This guy's going to get the top of the lineup up in a round. We're hype about this guy. Probably would start Torian left if we stuck to the whole, if we didn't stick to the whole primary position thing. But we're happy with Danny G out there anyway. This guy's a beast. He's going to go dig for balls that other guys aren't willing to dig for. He's going to go run in the fence. He's going to go run in the catcher. This is our lineup. Minnesota Twins all-time roster. I'll take about anybody except for the Yankees on. Let's be real. Come on now. This is Minnesota Mike. Thanks for watching.
You're so good.